Where you are today is where in 1639 a group of settlers came and they did something that had never happened before.
We are at the Connecticut Old State House today, where a lot of our government actually began, where the fundamental orders were originally drafted, the precursor to our Constitution. This is everything that you need in here, name tags and everything are in the front.
It's informational, it's about the Constitution.
We're thrilled to have you here because we teach about history, but we also teach civics here. Civics is very important to us.
We are so grateful to be here. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful place.
For historic significance and for groups like ourselves, it certainly adds a definite sense of historical enthusiasm to what we're doing.
All the materials you need for that particular group session are in the folder.
Cold represents bad screws. You have to hold on part of the yarn like I'm doing right now.
Start over with the
He wants to be a filmmaker, so these are the things that are there you go.
But also show the Black Nation. So nobody touches this, okay?
The process of making a documentary film is very complex. This simple candle with its unlighted wick symbolizes the coming together, the thinking, and the process that goes on before the vocalizing of ideas can happen.
The film in the box thing, it's one of those things that's either going to be a complete train wreck or completely genius. You're talking about kids who've maybe put eyes on each other once before. They might have done an activity in the first state meeting. They might have sent a message to each other on the site. And all of a sudden you're handing them a camera and a concept and saying go, and the clock is ticking. I was astounded.
We're all really happy when we're done soon.
I think what'll make it impressive for a 7 or 8 minute film, meaning from start to finish, production, pre-production, and everything, they all sort of bought into this idea of how they were going to use these objects to tell this story. I think if they would have spent 10 seconds longer debating, it would have been a disaster. But they bought in, they agreed. We sort of picked who was going to do the voiceover, who was going to do the shooting, who was going to direct early enough that we had enough time to actually shoot the thing. And it was a little rushed at the end, a little chaotic, but we got it done.
But in order to get things done and improve the world, then we have to set aside that and get involved, which is, I think, what you're on the road to doing. And the stakes are awfully high. There are a lot of issues facing this country and this world, from economic justice and economic opportunity, jobs for your generation, to environmental concerns that we have, to issues of war and peace and poverty and hunger around the world.
And the premise that you can't have state houses until you have a constitution. Horatio Hitchcock, who talked very gruffly, said, if there is no difference between the architecture under the king and the architecture under the federal constitution, then there was no reason to have an American Revolution. It's a bit of an overstatement, but it's true.
I'm curious about how does one become a historian? How did you? Can you point to a particular moment in your life where you discovered that that was your passion?
Actually, I can. It has to do with my grandmother who lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And the restaurant happened to have been the home of Longfellow's Village Smithy. And that poem begins, Under the spreading chestnut lies the village smithy, etc.
This is a perfect example of someone who was asked a question.
Who took the question.
Who took the question and run. Now, you can decide to let him or her do that. Because you noticed he did not answer the question really. I mean, he went on a tangent, which was interesting, but not your subject. It's a delicate thing. You can't let him go on forever because you have a limited amount of time and you want to get the material that you need. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
My privilege. Thank you.
We're actually working on funding for the arts in public schools. We haven't really figured out roles yet because we want to become more of a group and all work on the same thing. And then at the end, when we start our interviews, then we're going to distribute out into roles.
We're working on a documentary that focuses on violent video games and its effect on youth, how parents feel about it, how the people who rate video games are rating them and what they're based off. It would be nice to see other people's perspectives on it, but also it would be nice to see the effect it's had on other people's lives.
Well, my students got a lot of feedback about their film. They had an opportunity to kind of see where other students were because I think that was causing a little bit of anxiety. Like, you know, am I doing this right? Is it coming along? Are we where we should be on the timeline? So today was very, very helpful.
Shooting the sort of impromptu film was really fun. Getting everybody to just throw their ideas out on the table and just putting them together into something cohesive. And the fact that you couldn't edit made it a little bit more challenging, but sort of helped with getting everybody to fully form their opinions and their ideas rather than just throw a little detail out.
I put my name in and I won a flip video camera, which is really surprising because I've never really won anything like that before. And I've actually already filmed a bunch of things across inside the old State House. It's really, really cool.
Yes.
You should give me the camera so I can...
If you start digging, all of a sudden you're finding out that the real story is far more interesting than what somebody has put in a book. That you go back to the primary sources, or you do your homework, so when you say to somebody, Mrs. Lincoln, what was it like that night at Ford's Theater? You're going to get a reaction.